On the night of April 13th, 1912, at approximately 11:40 p.m., the RMS Titanic, on its starboard side, struck the infamous iceberg. Approximately 2 hours and 40 minutes later, at 2:20 a.m., she was submerged into the bottom of the ocean. I know this is a sensitive subject, especially today on the, what year is it? On today, 113th anniversary of her sinking. I just think that's important to acknowledge that the Titanic as a whole is being lost to time. And it's becoming very evident, even with the resurgence of brand new technologies and 3D scans that give us more of an insight about the ship's final moments. The fact of the matter is that one day the Titanic will simply just not exist. And it's most apparent in the railing that, of course, you probably know is old news at this point, but the railing that is iconic in images of the ship and in images of its wreck has subsequently fallen off. And my buddies, when I first found out about it, I was looking on like Reddit or something, and I looked up, I was like, no! And my roommate can attest to this. Brad, can you attest that I was upset when the Titanic railing fell off? Just speak it right into here.
Yes, he was flabbergasted.
I was very upset, but if you couldn't tell, that's the theme of this video. But yeah, so I was a little bit upset, as you can tell, and it kind of reminds me, because when you look at like an oil painting, like if you look at the Mona Lisa, there's like a whole bunch of cracks. The paint and the varnish are physically cracks. It's showing the elements of time. Now time comes for us all, death is undefeated, unfortunately. But I think, I don't know, it's a strange almost beauty in a way, with the Titanic, seeing that there's still such a great fascination with it. And it's not even borderline morbid, it's a very morbid type of fascination with it. And I'll probably dive more into that in a later video, but with like the railing and stuff, how much longer is the Titanic even going to be a physical thing? Now obviously you can go to the Titanic, like, in a type of submersible, but of course people nowadays are a little bit more concerned with that and the legitimacies and especially the morality around it, because it's literally like a graveyard. There's no bodies there anymore because the bodies erode and decay, and over 100 years later there's shoes, there's combs, there's elements, and there's evidence that obviously these were rooms that people for a short while lived in, like cared in, had families in, that are now just, it's almost like, in a weird way, it's kind of like a modern day Pompeii. Obviously Pompeii, people were literally cast in ash. It really shows that our time here is very limited, but the items that we have and that we use that are ours, when we're gone, kind of just get placed wherever they're put. If you couldn't tell, I have no actual direction with this video. I'm kind of just saying stuff, but this kind of brings up the more moral, conflicting views on the Titanic. And I remember when I was way younger, when I was learning about the Titanic, this came up, and it's like, should we go to the wreck site and document it and raise up these artifacts just for the historical preservation, or should we take a more laid back approach and respecting that it's essential, that it is like a graveyard? And that's a whole other argument in itself, because there's literally a whole market for Titanic artifacts. Like it's a craze. It's literally a morbid craze. And of course I have a fascination with the Titanic, but I don't know, it's the hunt for artifacts definitely is a kind of rubs me in a weird way, but that's a whole other thing. Sorry, I get emotional about this stuff. The Titanic is a very, very weird thing to kind of become popular, and it's arguably maybe not as most popular as it's been, but it's always remained in the public conscience. Like, how many movies have been made about the Titanic? How many documentaries about the Titanic? How many videos about the Titanic? And even in modern age, obviously the stuff with OceanGate, the whole thing with Titanic 2, and recently, kind of one of the reasons why I'm making this video, a whole bunch of new evidence and digital scans and a whole bunch of other really crazy stuff about the Titanic. So over a century later, we are still so fascinated with this event that, you know, is a tragedy. It's also a tragedy that happened right before one of the most deadly and destructive wars of all time, which was then followed by a flu epidemic, which killed, if I'm not mistaken, more people than the entire First World War. And then, after that, a Second World War that killed even more people, which is, it's so weird that this event, and obviously it's not making a comparison of, you know, lives to lives, just because that's a horrible argument to make, but it's just so fascinating to me that we are intrigued by this maritime disaster. It's not even the worst maritime disaster of all time. That's a whole other ship. And there's a whole bunch of different reasons for that. I probably will eventually make a video talking about why we as a society are still fascinated with the Titanic. I think the whole point of this video that I'm trying to make is, you know, things in this life are limited. We are only here for undisclosed amount of time. You know, you don't really know when your time is at its end. I think that I think we kind of latch on to these fascinations, to these morbid curiosities, because it kind of, in a way, allows us to be more at ease with our own mortality. And I think that's one of the most human things that we do. Of course, we make jokes and lightheartedness of crazy things that happen. We create artwork, we create films, we create music to cope with tragedies, to cope with loss, to cope with just about anything. When you have good days, you may cope with, like, relaxers. You may watch a YouTube video to get your mind off of something that's bothering you. And I don't know, isn't it supposed to be about the Titanic? But I don't know, this was just I don't know, I don't really have the way to kind of end this video. This was just, I don't know, just a random idea that popped into my head for a video to make, you know, obviously with the anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic and all that. If you're wanting more, I guess, thought-provoking videos or videos about the Titanic, I'm more than happy to oblige. So just let me know in the comment section down below, and that should be it. So yeah, gotta take the microphone off, people. Okay, 2025 minus 19, 1200. on today. Arguably as many, if not, if which killed arguably more, which, if I'm not mistaken, sorry, let me just rephrase.